listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Sean Douglas, author of Decisions, The Power to Overcome Self-Defeating Behaviors. Sean was born in Michigan and is a veteran of the United States Air Force, where he was a drill instructor in basic training, and where he also molded 500 young men and women into military leaders. Sean now runs the Success Corps, where he teaches the students to unlock their true potential and evaluate their life. Welcome, Sean. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am super pumped to be here.
Well, thank you, Sean, for your service for our country. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And second, as a motivational speaker, what motivated you to write your book?
Inside of the introduction of the book is actually the story of how everything got written. And it was super weird. I knew that I wanted to put something out, either write a short, couple page ebook or do something. I just didn't know. And I woke up one night and I couldn't breathe. It literally felt like somebody was standing on my chest. And as I'm sitting up and I'm trying to force air into my face, I'm shaking my wife. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Wow. I'm freaking out. And she's rubbing my chest and I'm trying to, and when I could breathe, I was like, wow, when I was in third grade, I did this. When I was in first, when I was in eighth grade, I went to my grandparents' house and did that, all these thoughts, and I could literally feel the emotions that I felt years ago. I started writing things down. And I was like, wow, this is super weird. Went back to sleep. About 2 weeks later, the same exact thing happened.
Whoa.
I'm like, oh my God, I got sleep apnea. Military's I don't know what's going to happen. And I was telling her about it. I'm like, this is so weird. Why would I think about that stuff from 20 years ago? It's so weird as I'm writing things down, because I'm always journaling. And a couple of days later, so it's been about 3 weeks, and I look and I literally have almost my life story just jotted down on paper that I had sitting next to my journal. And as I started organizing things, I was like, this is it. This is the book.
Right.
This is it. So I started organizing things, and then I had a table of contents written, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Well, you hear about that, about creative people, how it just comes to them and they write things down, scribble notes here and there, and then, either a song is born or, I guess, a book.
Right. It seems to frequently happen at night, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night.
Yep.
But not usually with chest pains, mimicking a heart attack.
It was so weird. It woke me up, and I'm having all of these thoughts. And I knew that I always wanted to do something. I just never knew what it was.
So
then 3 weeks later, here I am.
And you didn't have any intention of writing a book. You didn't say, someday I'm going to write a book.
I knew I don't even like writing. That's the thing. I don't even like it. Yeah, I don't think that what I feel and what I think and believe translates well onto paper. I don't know. I just don't. But I've blogged a couple times, and I've written people's bios, and I've done this and written something. They're like, oh my gosh, you're great. And I'm like, whatever. I don't like to do it. And so when I was doing it, I just poured my heart out into this thing, but I had no idea that a book was in me. I just knew that I wanted to put something out there. Like I said, like a 5 or 10 page ebook, or maybe a 2-month blog, 3 times a week or something. I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to put out, but a book ended up being written.
Well,
Wow.
Great. Congratulations.
And then what happened after you wrote the book? What did you do? What was the next step to get it going?
I wrote my book, and I was going to give up. And I don't give up on things. I was just going to kind of maybe put it aside, oh man, maybe I'm doing about this the wrong way. And so in the end of January, all this is going on. Towards the end of February, I said, you know what? I'm just going to write it. This is what's going to happen. So I'm writing. And then May, I go to a conference, and I'm like, man, I don't know. And there's a couple of authors there. It was like, no, you got to keep going. No matter what you do, you got to keep going. So they really were pushing me to finish this book. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have it by September. By September, I'm going to be done. By September, I'm going to be done. And so I set that goal, and I set it up to where, and when I do my goals, I set it up to where it's little at a time. So I'm writing, 5 pages every day or 10 pages, whatever my intention was. And so come July, I was done. I actually finished in July and said, okay, now I need to edit. Well, my younger sister, is an English major.
Oh,
and she
nice.
writes all the time. And
How
does
convenient.
things. She writes, yeah, right. She writes blogs. She does this. And so I was like, hey, would you mind kind of looking at my book and see what you think? And she emailed me, kind of like some revisions, whatever. I was like, you misunderstood me. Like, I want you to like edit it, format it, sentence, like everything. And
That's a lot.
oh. So the next email I got was like, she had bled all over it. Almost every word was in red. This doesn't make sense. Like, she tore this thing apart. This is not grammar correct. I don't even know what this means. Like, she had rearranged some sentence format where like this paragraph and this paragraph were kind of the same thing. And so she reformatted, restructured grammar, like everything. She basically almost rewrote my entire book. And I've recommended her to other people.
Great. That's
and
nice.
she does amazing work. And my book has been praised. My pastor at my church here in North Carolina actually did a sermon on my book.
Oh, wow.
that's
And
nice.
read
What an
it
honor.
in church. Part of the last chapter about transformation. And like, that was the format. That's what I wanted, was about transformation, because that's how everything happens. And so July, she did it all, and then through August I was rewriting and revisiting, and how's it, and we were just going back and forth, and then I said, okay, September 1st, game on. And then that's what I did. As one chapter, and here's the best part, as one chapter was written and finalized, I then took the first 2 paragraphs and the last 2 paragraphs, and that was my blog.
Oh.
So whenever the first chapter was done, boom, that's the first blog. So I blogged about my book using the first 2 chapters and the first 2 paragraphs and the last 2 paragraphs of that particular chapter until like 2 weeks after the launch date. So I did it until the launch, September 1st, and then 2 weeks after. And then it generated like a lot of pre-sale and pre-orders, and everything was great.
Great idea. So,
Wait, can you, going back to your sister, can you tell us her name or website or something?
Sure. My sister's name is Kathy Douglas. She
Great.
lives in Michigan.
Okay.
oh, okay.
Pure Michigan.
So is she looking for work? Is she looking for other people to send books?
If anybody wants her to edit the book, you will not be sorry. She does amazing work, and I guarantee you she's a lot more inexpensive than, because it's not, I don't want to say cheap because that's bad, because she does amazing work, but she doesn't do it for the money. She does it because she knows that writing a book for people can be very, very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Well,
Very good. So then when you were talking about finishing the book by July and getting it out on September 1st, that was 2016, right? So the book is
2016.
So the book's just about a year old?
It is exactly a year old. Yep.
Well,
congratulations.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are you doing to promote the book?
Took out Facebook ads, and I was doing it on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
okay. So you did. Oh, LinkedIn too.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. I sent it out to my email list. I was building an email list, building a following.
Great.
I had asked people inside of my personal Facebook, like, hey, I'm writing a book. Who wants to be on a launch team?
Oh,
so I had a couple
okay.
people. I mean, not
Excellent.
a couple. I had almost 100.
Wow.
But I was like, hey man, who wants to be on a launch team? So we made a Facebook group about it. Hey, let's be on a launch team. And so, at a predetermined time, on September 1st, when my book came out as a Kindle, because I have a Kindle and a paperback.
Okay.
When the Kindle version came out at a predetermined time, we all bought the book.
That's fun.
Off of Amazon, and then, you do incentives. So I do incentives right now. Like if you buy 5 copies, I'll ship you 3 free with autographs.
Okay.
It's just different ones. Like if you buy 20, I'll ship you 10 for autographs. Whatever is going to be, that promo. But when I go to conferences, I'll have books, and I'm not really a big seller from the stage as a speaker. I just want to speak to the audience, not at them. I speak to them and with them. And by the time that I'm done with my presentation, they're like, hey, where's your book?
Yeah,
So
great.
So when you asked your book launch group to all buy the book, the idea was that it would be a spike in sales, right? So then it would get more notice instead of everyone buying it over a 10-day or a 20-day period, right? Was that the
yeah,
the
right.
thinking?
So I don't know how many people I'm going to make mad by giving away some secrets, but if you want to be a New York Times bestselling author, I believe, if it's not changed, that if you buy 10,000 books within an hour, you make it on a New York Times bestselling list. Some of them are 20,000, sometimes they're 50,000. You have to sell X amount of copies. With Amazon, I believe, if it hasn't changed, at the time it was about 1,000 copies. So if you buy, 1,000 copies, let's say, if you buy 1,000 copies in an hour, you're an Amazon bestseller. It's
Right.
super easy to be an Amazon bestseller, considering that the book comes out at 99 cents. So if somebody
Okay.
spends $10. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah, right.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you buy 10 books.
Yeah.
Like, if 100 people buy 10 books because it's only $10, I mean, you're looking at $1,000 right there just for the 100 people.
Right.
And so what I said was, hey man, can you gift it to somebody? Can you do this? So what I asked was, hey man, you're on the launch team. Go ahead and promote it. Go ahead and do this, but you get it free, right? If you want to pay for it, pay for it. And people did. People bought like 2 or 3 copies. And I said, hey man, the challenge is get one of your friends to buy it too. And then for every friend that buys it, I'll ship you a paperback.
Oh,
And that's what I
nice.
So
Wow.
so sales were really, really good. And I continue to get a couple, throughout the day. I self-published only because I wanted to learn the process myself. I didn't want to have somebody just do everything for me behind the scenes, whatever. I wanted to be deep in it. I wanted to know the ins and outs of what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, because if you're not learning, you're dying.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? So
So did you find the process easy, and who did you use?
I went and self-published through CreateSpace.
Okay.
And it was very, very seamless. I mean, you can't get any easier do-it-yourself than that, because they literally – and it'll come up with an error like, don't click there, don't click there. Okay, do it this way. Nope, error. Like, it's super, super easy. And, of course, it'll ask you, do you want to do a Kindle? You're like, absolutely, I do want to do an ebook version.
Exactly,
And then you do an ebook version. And then picking the hardest part about it was picking your niche, your area, because I go, okay, self-help, and then I've got some religious stuff in there. So do I go in religion, or do I go in not religion, or do I go in, this abuse, or do I go not there? Do I like picking what category to put your book in is got to be the most gut-wrenching process, because if you pick wrong,
Right.
your book is going to get buried. It's going to
Right.
get destroyed.
And how many
So-
different categories were there to choose? I mean, like, did you have to come up with like 3 categories, or did you have...
Kindle gives you 2, and I think the paperback gives you 2 or 3 as well.
Okay.
So I try to pick different ones.
Yeah.
The Kindle's
Yeah,
in these 2, and the paperback's in these other 2.
Right.
So
And then how about...
I debuted at number 8.
Excellent.
Like my book pre-ordered with the sales and everything, like generating all the everything. When my book launched, it debuted at number 8, and I was like, no way, this is so cool.
That is
That's fun.
great.
So it was, I didn't, even if I didn't debut at number 1, who cares? Like, I was top 10. Like, that's so cool to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the simple things. It's so awesome.
Right, but that's an unbelievable accomplishment to be able to pull that off. So when you're working with CreateSpace, was it difficult formatting the book?
Absolutely not. They formatted it for you.
Oh, okay.
So they give you make sure it's this. They give you the parameters. Make sure it's this space and this that, and make sure that page 1 is blank and it actually starts on page 2, which I had no idea. And then make sure you have this. Make sure you have this. Make sure you have this. And you just literally, I went to other books. I have a ton of John Maxwell books and some other books that. Just sitting, I got like 50 books sitting over here. I just looked through them like, what does the content look like? What does the format look like? Like John Maxwell books. Here's an example. You have your copyright page, and then you have your introduction page, and your table of contents, like your
Right.
acknowledgments. You're like,
Right.
I just copied them.
Yeah.
Yeah, had all the
know.
answers right there in your house, right?
And then CreateSpace says, nope, you're wrong. Do it this way. I'm like, oh. And so there's actually somebody behind the computer, because I got a message from them like, are you sure you want to do it this way? Because this
Oh.
isn't usually how. I'm like, no, yeah, absolutely. Whatever you think is best. And then they rearranged everything and sent it back to me and says, we think this looks better. I'm like, I agree with you, subject matter expert.
Oh, well, that's nice to know.
That is nice,
As
yeah.
you're working on your book, there's someone looking at it. So that's nice, instead of having to wait to the end or
Finding out the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my sister knows like formatting for, I mean, it's basically proper English, like literally tongue and quill and, all that stuff. It's just, if you know the formatting, sentence structure, you can write a book.
Right.
Well, good.
So about getting you as a speaker and buying multiple copies of your book, how would our listeners contact you for that?
So my website has my book available. And so let's say that they buy, 5 copies, I'll match them. So if you mention that you heard this show on the Author Podcast, and let's say you purchase, let's say 5 copies, I'll mail you 5 copies, like no cost to you. I will mail you 5 additional copies with signature and everything in it.
Well,
Wow.
thank you. That's great.
That's very nice for our audience.
If they shoot me an email, send me a message on Facebook somewhere that says, "Hey, I heard you on the Author Podcast, and I bought your book. Here's my receipt or whatever. Here's my show proof that you bought 5 copies." I'll mail out 5 copies to whoever buys them, so you get 10 copies. So half price.
Wow, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Amazon.com is the best place to purchase, or do you have a website where they can purchase directly from you?
So my website, thesuccesscore.com, has my book on the homepage. And if you scroll to the bottom, my book's there. It'll direct you right to Amazon, or you can just search on Amazon.
Okay.
And then what about advice for people who are thinking about writing a book?
Do it. Are you kidding me? Do it. So here's what I learned. Some people are afraid of failure. Who cares? Who cares if you fail? I fail every day. I'm not happy about it, but I learn from my mistakes. And that's the key, is to learn. Most people will not put something out because, it's not perfect. And it's never going to be perfect. My book, I've written that thing 200 times. It's never going to be perfect.
Right.
I can read my book and go, I should have said that. Oh my gosh, I should have said that. Because it was therapy. As I was writing, more emotion would come out, and then I'd delete a page, and then I'd rewrite it, and delete a page, and rewrite it. And I must have written that thing 200 times. But you have to put something out. That's the key. Put something out there. If you really want a book, write it. Guess what version John Maxwell's on some of his books, like 86. If you look at some books like Dale Carnegie, right? If you look at Dale Carnegie books, his book is written in 56, 57,
Right.
60, 62, 65, 70, 75.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's get revision so you put a book out. Okay, cool. Revision. Version 1, version 2, just rewrite, but at least it's there. And what's nice about having a launch team is that you have 10 or 20 people reading your book for free that are really editing without editing. They're like, "Hey man, I found a punctuation that's weird," because 12 people wrote my book, or 12 people read my book, and I wrote my book, and I read my book, and still to this day I can point out an error. I'm like, "Oh man, that's a comma instead of a period. Oh crap." You're never gonna. People pay tens of thousands of dollars to edit their books, and they still don't catch all the spelling errors, the grammatical errors. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Right. It's like Seth Godin says, just ship it. You got to do it. Just ship it. It's not going to be perfect, but ship it.
Yeah, just do it.
Right.
Just do it. Don't put out something that's going to tank. I mean, do the diligence,
Right.
Write it, edit it, write it again, right? Look at everything, read it all the way, like cover to cover, just read it nonstop. And then, get your editor, get whatever, if you're going to go professional editor, whatever. If you're going to use my sister, her name's Kathy Douglas. And then, so send back the revisions, do you agree? Do you not agree? Whatever. And then read it again, and then send it to 5 people and have them read it, and then send them back to you, and then read it again. And then send it out. Like, you have to send it out and just do it. I've got 2 publishers right now that want to publish my book. And we're working on them right now. One of them is Christian Faith Publishing Company.
Okay.
Wow.
And then another one is a lady that I met at a conference, and she publishes books for people. She has her own publishing company. So she's like, "Hey, I'd love to publish your book." I'm like, "Outstanding."
Yeah.
So I've got
great.
people. So now it's out of my hands because I don't know, quote, the business. So do I go publish with both? Do I publish with one? Do I pay? Do I not? Like, there's a whole inside of business away from writing books that those people can handle.
Right.
I just wrote the book and put it out there, and that was it.
So you've done revisions to your book. On CreateSpace?
So when the book launched September 1st, there was a couple errors that somebody saw, and I was like, oh, man. So when on CreateSpace, you can go back, make the changes, and then you can upload the document to CreateSpace, and then they'll reprint copies. So copies halt, and it says book is being revised, or book is being rewritten, or book is on hold, whatever. And then once CreateSpace looks at, because there is somebody that looks at all your content and says, okay, this is good, this is not good, this is, whatever. They're not going to look for like spelling errors, but they're just looking for, grammatical, like if you, let's say that you put like 6 words and there's no period, and then like there's another paragraph, like, well, you just totally messed that up. Like you can't do that.
We're going to take a break right now from the Author Inside You podcast, but please don't fast forward. It's not a commercial. Actually, Sean is going to do a Facebook Live right now, and he invited us to listen in so we could hear how he promotes his brand.
Hey, what's up, Facebook? Today is day 5 of the Facebook Live Gratitude Challenge, and today has been a pretty good day. I've got a couple blessings to talk about. So blessing number 1, I am off of work today. I don't have to work. It was awesome. I get to hang out with the family. I've got an awesome blessing also. So right now, I'm literally on a podcast right now as we speak called the Author Inside You podcast with Matt Rafferty and Leah Rafferty. And we were doing a podcast. I said, hold on, pause, got to do Facebook Live. So literally, I am on a podcast right now. The third blessing has to be how you bless somebody. So I went on Facebook and I chose 3 people and I endorsed them with some other people and made some introductions and whatnot. So I introduced them or endorsed them for what they do, for speaking and whatever it is they do. Whatever you need today, I will do for you. So I'm going to get back to the podcast. Thank you so much for everybody who tunes in to my 66-day Facebook Live gratitude challenge. This has been amazing. I feel amazing when I have the opportunity to bless other people. Thanks. Love you guys. Boom. Posted.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That was awesome.
Fun.
Very
that
good.
was fun. Yeah.
That was so cool.
All right.
So tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so my show is called Life Transformation Radio, and it's a live online radio show that is live every Wednesday and then every first and third Friday. And the synopsis of the show is that we all go through a transformation. We weren't born authors, we weren't born speakers, we weren't born resilient, we weren't born like nothing. So everything we do is a learned behavior. And how do we transform our lives into the dream life that we want? And so I've had UFC's Bruce Buffer on the show. I've had Zig Ziglar's son, Tom Ziglar, who him and I have actually connected and become friends. I've had millionaire speaker and author Greg Reed. He's the author of 3 Feet from Gold, Stickability, and Thoughts Are Things. We've become friends as well. I've had Mark, the Make-A-Wish founder, Frank Shankowitz on the show. Mm-hmm. I've had all kinds of people, from unknown people to well-known people, and it's basically all about our transformation. The show is literally about what is it that we've overcome, what is it that we've gone through, and how are we helping those with our own transformation. So I'm a suicide survivor, and I've overcome all that alcohol addiction and suicide and all that. And so I'm actually in the Air Force, the base's lead suicide awareness trainer, and I have 2 speaking gigs that I'll be doing at the end of the month for suicide awareness. One's a fundraiser and one's an actual suicide walk. And sometimes I go to churches and I speak about it. My book talks about it. And so the show is, and it launched in February of this year, and I'm listened to in 27 countries with 1,200 listeners, weekly listeners. So I got asked to go out to San Diego the 23rd through the 25th to talk about my podcast, to be a speaker out there in San Diego. So that was really super cool.
Yeah, I would think so.
And
Nice.
it's just, it's all about transformation, the hiccups, the roller coasters of life, how we've overcome, and how we use our transformations to inspire and help someone through their transformation.
Very nice.
Which is what you guys are exactly doing with the Author podcast. Is you were literally like, hey, how did you do it? What did you do? And so you're helping other people break out of that fear or gain knowledge to write their book.
Yes,
So
that is our goal.
Sure,
That is our goal.
Yep, that was our intention.
If someone wanted to book you as a motivational speaker,
Yeah.
that can also be found on the successcore.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, on the website, there's a page called Book Me, and if you send out a message and say I want to book you for whatever, it will go right to my personal email, and
okay.
I respond to. I don't have like a virtual assistant. I love interacting with people. So when I post on Facebook, I post on LinkedIn. I don't do Snapagram or InstaChat or any of that other stuff. I do LinkedIn, Facebook, and then the website. So if you send me a message, I respond to all the messages. I like interacting with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's obvious.
Yes. What about your wife? Did she say, is she excited? Is she tired? Or, oh, wait, well, congratulations, because you're going to have your 4th child. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, my wife just sits back watching me. She goes, it never ends.
Yeah.
Never ends.
But it has to be fun, too.
Yeah.
So. And you want an inspiration
absolutely.
for your children, too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. My 14-year-old has. And I say I made him, but I've made him read The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm-hmm.
He has to read that book.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So right now, he's reading The 5 Love Languages of Children, which I've already read. I've read The 5 Love Languages, and I've read The 5 Love Languages of Children, and what I want him to get is that if you're not reading, you're not learning, and if you're not learning, you're not growing, and if you're not growing, you're dying. But I don't want him to just read Pokemon books or
Sure.
Hunger Games or and I always ask him, how can you apply what you've just read in these 10 pages? How can you apply it to your life?
Wow.
So and that's what he
good
does.
advice.
He writes me a book report, a 2-paragraph book report on the 10 pages that he's read.
Wow. That is very good.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great idea to do that with kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Well, Sean, thank you very much for being a guest on our show today. It was great having you. You're very motivational. I think you've got us all pumped up.
Yes.
I mean, we've got to send our books out to people and have them read now, right? There's no more sitting on them. We got to go. So thank you very much. It was great talking to you.
I have had so much fun. You guys rock.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
And until next time.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.